Leber hereditary optic neuropathy is an inherited mitochondrial disorder that leads to blindness. In fact, it is actually the most common inherited mitochondrial disorder. In this image, I'll give you an easy way to remember this disease on your exam. First, take a look at our young man being sent away to work as a laborer. That's right, a laborer. I always knew this day would come, my young son. Anyway, the word laborer should remind you of labor, as in Leber hereditary optic neuropathy. Next, take a look at the power plant at the back of the image. Yes, it's off to the power plant you go, my young son. Anyway, this power plant is our symbol for the mitochondria. Because, the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. This should also remind you that Leber's disease is a mitochondrial disorder, so the disease is inherited through the mitochondria. Recall that mitochondria have their own genomes. The mutation in Leber's is caused by one in mitochondrial DNA, and not in the normal DNA of the cell's nucleus. Now, I'm okay with you leaving, boy. But your mom is really upset. You're just such a special boy. Anyway, see your mom here, sending you away? This should remind you that Leber hereditary optic neuropathy is transmitted maternally, since, the mitochondria are only inherited through mom. Next, take a look at the different colored work vests people are wearing. These variable work vests should remind you of the variable expression seen in Leber's. Variable expression refers to different patients having different signs and symptoms of the disease. That is, the signs and symptoms are variable. In mitochondrial diseases, this variable expression is due to a phenomenon known as heteroplasmy. Hetero means different, and plasmy refers to plastids, which are membrane-bound organelles found in plants that also have their own DNA like mitochondria do. Since each of these organelles have their own DNA, it's possible that the DNA is different from organelle to organelle. This is what heteroplasmy refers to. Some of the organelles, which in our case are mitochondria, have the mutation, whereas others don't. This is why we have variable expression from patient to patient. Different numbers of mitochondria may be affected in each person. Next, take a look at that helmet you're wearing. Such a young man. Your helmet doesn't fit at all. It even completely covers your eyes. Anyway, this should remind you of the vision loss seen in patients with Leber's hereditary optic neuropathy. I mean, come on, it's right there in the name. Leber's hereditary optic neuropathy. Of course, the optic nerve is degenerative. Patients with Leber's disease have a degeneration of retinal ganglion cells, which leads to a subacute loss of central vision. Since the cause is genetic, the vision loss will eventually be bilateral. That is, both eyes will be affected. Okay, so just how young are you, kid? Well, your age doesn't matter. I just know that you are a young male. And the fact that you're a young male should help you remember that Leber's typically affects young males, like teens and young adults. And don't forget the male part, as Leber's has a male predominance. Alright, that's all for Leber's hereditary optic neuropathy. Let's quickly recap. Leber hereditary optic neuropathy is the most common inherited mitochondrial disorder. It is caused by a mutation in mitochondrial DNA, which means that the disease is transmitted maternally. Since each mitochondrion has its own genome, the mutation may only affect some of the mitochondria. This is responsible for the variable expressivity seen in Leber hereditary optic neuropathy patients, and this phenomenon is known as heteroplasmy. The typical Leber's patient is that of a young male, and patients typically present with subacute vision loss. This vision loss is caused by a degeneration of retinal ganglion cells and consequent optic nerve degeneration. Alright, now we're actually done. Now hurry on to the next video before your mom gets sad again.